Hi everyone, I am Dr. Michelle Grocke and I will be your instructor for ANTY225 Culture, Language, and Society. And so I want to start this video off by apologizing that I am not physically in Bozeman for this first week of school. At the end of last semester, I was asked a little bit last minute if I would be willing to join a research project that takes place in Kathmandu in Nepal, and was asked whether or not it would be feasible for me to be in country for last week and this week because it was the only time that all of our collaborators could meet together. So for that reason, I am doing this introductory, let's say, lecture online. So this is what we would be doing if we were all together on Wednesday, the first day of class. And then for Friday, we also don't have class, but we will be doing online discussion. And so hopefully with these two things, we can get everything taken care of that we would have done had I been able to be there. So again, wanted to say hello. I'm excited to have everybody in class with me. And again, my name is Dr. Grocke, but feel free to call me Michelle, Professor Grocke, whichever you prefer. So I want to give everybody a little bit of background of myself, and then we're going to together go over the syllabus and the course expectations for the term. And then, as I mentioned before, we don't have class on Friday, but I'll explain what's expected of you this week, and then we will all meet in class next Wednesday. So let's see, a little bit about me. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and I completed my undergraduate education in economics and statistics, actually, not anthropology. And I then worked for numerous years for different United Nations branches and different NGOs in the fields of microfinance. So that's basically providing small loans to individuals to help them start their own business. I also worked on various labor market inequality issues such as the gender pay gap, and then spent sort of the later time of that working for UNFPA, which is the branch of the UN that works to better maternal and child health. In 2000, let's see, gosh, can I remember the year? In 2011, I began graduate work and I got a master's in cultural anthropology and a PhD in medical anthropology specifically. And I did that schooling from the University of Montana. And once I finished with that, I taught at Utah State University in Logan, Utah, and now this is my first academic year here in Bozeman as a faculty member at MSU. And in terms of my research, again, I am specifically a medical anthropologist, which is a subfield of cultural anthropology, which we will learn about this semester. And a lot of my work has to do with researching and assessing what we call sociocultural determinants of health. So what, for example, are cultural facets, are societal or environmental facets that could contribute to ill health outcomes. And right now, as you guys are watching this video, I am embarking on hopefully a multi-year research journey with some collaborators in Nepal, where we are trying to figure out why it is that women in Nepal, and specifically postpartum women, so women who have recently given birth, why they have higher rates of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and diabetes than other subsets of the population. And so I am working with cardiologists and surgeons and epidemiologists, and my role in this group is to conduct ethnography, which you'll learn about this semester, and do interviews and focus groups and gather what we call illness narratives to try to get life stories and to try to figure out a little bit more of the why behind some of these ill health outcomes. So whereas a lot of doctors and surgeons are meeting with patients saying, okay, you have hypertension, you have diabetes, what do we do about it? How do we make your situation better? My role within the team is to figure out why this is occurring in the first place. And maybe there's cultural reasons, maybe there are family reasons, societal reasons, environmental reasons. And so that's the type of work that I am doing this week and for many months and years to come with this particular research group. So let's dive into the syllabus for this semester. And so hopefully, if you found this video, you're already on D2L on our site. And it's important that you check D2L frequently, as any updates to the syllabus will be made directly on the course skeleton itself. And I would recommend when you log on, there's an overview page on the left, and then you'll see weeks 1 through 15. And if you click on week 1, I definitely have the same information on the overview in week 1 to start, but you'll see what you need to be doing for this week, and then you'll also see all of the attachments. Oftentimes we'll read articles and there'll be films and things, and those are attached right there. So you are on D2L, and so make sure you take some time and read through things there, but let's go through the actual paper copy syllabus together. And so I would recommend, as you're watching me in this video, that you have it maybe open on another screen or print it out. So I know that not everybody has taken Intro to Anthropology at MSU when taking this class. I taught this class last semester, and let's say there were about 75% that have taken 101, 25 not. So the first week will be a little bit of review for those of you that have, but basically in this course we're not looking at all 4 of the subfields of anthropology. We're only looking at the cultural anthropology and the linguistic anthropology subfields. And so all the work that we will be doing, all of the scholarly works that we'll be studying, have to do with modern day humans and their behaviors, and trying to figure out why humans do what they do, and looking at cultures from around the world, and looking at all of this through an anthropological perspective or lens, which is something that we will go over this week in your homework. And the online discussion that you're going to be participating in this week has to do with talking about what this anthropological perspective or lens is. And so that's how we'll start. And then throughout the course, instead of reading a bunch of textbooks, we are going to actually be reading 4 different ethnographies. Ethnographies are, the word can be used as both a verb and a noun. And so you can conduct ethnography. That's what cultural anthropologists do when they are scientifically studying another culture. And then they can produce an ethnography, which is looks like a book. It's not a novel, it's not fiction, it's writing about their research experiences and writing about their research outcomes in a text format. And the 4 ethnographies that I have picked for us to read together this semester are written here on page 1 of the syllabus, and I have them listed in alphabetical order, but we're not going to be reading them in that order. And I chose these 4 because they all have to do with a different part of the world. They're all written from a different theoretical standpoint, and they all have to clearly do with a different topic. And so I would say if you haven't gotten all of these at the bookstore yet, the first one we're going to read is Paul Rabinow's book called Reflections of Fieldwork in Morocco. And we're going to be reading that book starting, let's see, if you look sort of at the end of this, or let's see, page 4 of the syllabus, we're going to start reading his book in week 4. So the first few weeks are really going to be explaining to you all, talking as a group about what cultural anthropology is, what culture is, what type of methods we use in our discipline, and then starting in week 4, we'll read our first ethnography. And as I said, this book takes place in Morocco, and Paul Rabinow really opens up and provides us with a very transparent account as to what it's like to do field work, his experiences, and how to do, let's say, research in more of a postmodern way. And we'll learn about theory next week, and that word will mean a little bit more sense to you then. So after reading that ethnography, we're then going to read the Lee Grocke book called From Mukugoro to Maasai, Ethnic and Cultural Change in Kenya. And this book is great, totally different theoretical framework. So here, Grocke relies on behavioral ecology, which is a little bit more hypothesis science-based, certainly more than the Rabinow book. And there we will learn about a group of people living in Kenya who make a pretty rapid transition from being foragers to pastoralists. And again, if those terms don't make sense, we will clearly, before we start reading, talk about all the different livelihood options that humans have engaged in through time, and we'll use that book to really get a window into one culture, specifically the Mukogoto and the Maasai, two ethnic groups, and we'll learn about this through the lens of Lee Grocke and his fieldwork. Then, let's see, if we look at the dates again later in this in the syllabus, when we start, let's see, after spring break, we will read the two sort of medical anthropology rooted ethnographies I've chosen for us. And the third one we'll read is Nancy Shepherd Hughes, her Saints, Scholars, and Schizophrenics. So this book is medical anthropology based. Nancy Shepherd Hughes is a very famous anthropologist, and here she takes us to rural Ireland, and there we really dissect mental illness from an anthropological perspective using her work as a case study. So we'll read that together, and then we'll close with a Paul Farmer book. I don't know if he's certainly the most famous of these authors. Paul Farmer is both a physician and a medical anthropologist, and the book of his that we'll read is called Pathologies of Power. And there he takes us from Russia to Haiti to Cuba, and he talks about structural inequalities and how those impact primarily infectious disease. And he spends a lot of time in this book talking about tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS, and how as anthropologists we can be engaged in those ill health outcomes and kind of telling the story as to why these outcomes occur more often to some people than others. So our course will be centered around reading these 4 ethnographies, and like I said, before we kind of start, we will have the first 3 weeks where you'll be reading readings that I have posted on D2L to get everybody up to speed on what anthropology is, what cultural anthropology is, the methods that we use, and then together we'll read those 4 books. Okay, so you can read through the learning outcomes on your own. I want to make a point again with D2L. I heavily rely on D2L. I mean, I'll see you all 3 times a week, but if there's ever a change in the schedule or an update, I will definitely send an announcement on D2L and then update it there. So one thing I want to make sure everyone does is make sure that the email that you prefer to use, so whether that be Gmail or Hotmail, make sure that's the email that you have registered with D2L so that when I make an announcement that you get that notification in the inbox that you frequently look at. Okay, so course policies and procedures. I mean, it's a 200 level class, so just read through these on your own time. If you have any questions, please let me know. One thing I want to stress is that I very much do not appreciate cell phone usage in class. We've got class 3 times a week, 50 minutes a week. So before you come into class, if you could turn off your cell phones, put them away, and be present in class, that will not only help you learn, but it'll not be a hindrance or distraction for others in the class, and will make for a much more productive learning environment. Okay, so let's look at the course requirements. So we are on page 3 of the syllabus, and the first is class participation. So we're about 30 people in class, so we're going to get to know each other quite well over the course of the semester. We are going to be doing a lot of group work, and you guys are all going to be presenting at one point in time, and so we'll all get to know each other's names and much more about one another very quickly. So I do expect everybody to be in attendance. Now, of course, if something comes up, specifically medically, I mean, let me know and we can definitely have that be excused. But if you're feeling well, you should be in class and ready to participate, ask questions, and be actively engaged. So as you'll see this, we're reading 4 ethnographies in addition to other articles scattered throughout the semester. So it is a very reading heavy course. So that's one thing I want to stress in this video. Anthropologists read a lot, and if you don't like to read, you will probably have a hard time, but I certainly think I have chosen books that are really captivating and fun to read, and so just be prepared to read between 50 and 90 pages per week of class. And if you read, if you take notes, if you're ready to talk about the readings, and are actively engaged, you all should do phenomenally in the course. Okay, I do have a note here that if at a certain point, if active participation diminishes, so meaning if we're talking about a reading or your fellow students are presenting and people are just sitting there in their chairs, slouched back, not raising their hand, not helping keep the discussion going, I will ask you to turn in your reading notes. And I really hope I don't have to do this. I know it's sort of a strenuous, monotonous thing for everyone. So the way to avoid that is to just come prepared to class and be actively engaged, and then we don't even have to revisit that at all in the semester. Okay, so the second thing under course requirements is called the discussion leader assignment. So you will do this assignment in substitute of a midterm exam. And to do this, you guys will be in groups of 3 or 4. So you won't be by yourself doing this. And what this assignment is you will be responsible for the discussion that day. And we won't start doing these until later in the semester. If you look at the course outline, the first one of these we have is during week 4. And we have these when we're reading the ethnography. And so if you look through the outline, all of these that are actual discussion leader assignment days have a number in a parentheses. So the first one is February 2nd. The second one is February 5th, and the third one right away on February 9th. So here, when I get back to Bozeman, so next Wednesday, I'm going to have all of these written up on the board. And so in total, we have 13 of them. And what I want you to do for homework this week is look through the syllabus, and maybe you base this on you're very interested in one of these ethnographies and you want to be engaged with that one. Or maybe you look at your other course schedules and see that you have, 3 midterms in 1 week. So you certainly don't want to do the assignment then. But regardless, pick maybe 2 or 3 days of those discussion days and have those in mind for next Wednesday, because next Wednesday I'll write all these on the board and then we'll break you guys up into groups. And so 3 or 4 of you per group on those days will be in charge of leading the discussion. And so for that, you will have a chunk of reading to do, to be responsible for, and how you do this is up to you. I expect you to go over the material, potentially talk about the history of the author, or if your specific group is later in the book, maybe you have a nice conclusion to the book. I want you to come up with creative ways to get the class involved. So last semester I had groups do Jeopardy, or I had groups do game shows, or note cards with questions, and breaking the class into further groups. So one thing I do require for these is that each group meets with me at least 2 days before you're presenting. So you'll know who your groups are already next Wednesday. You'll know when you're presenting for the discussion leader assignment. So make an appointment with me, come see me during office hours, and we can go over your presentation. I can help you come up with innovative ways to get the discussion going, and I'll also review what you have and make sure there aren't any gaps. So if you look a little further in the syllabus, this discussion leader assignment is worth 25% of your total grade, and that's sort of the substitute for your midterm. And so there's no reason you all can't do great on that, and it'll be good to get some practice in front of the classroom and leading the class through discussion on these books. Okay, the final exam, so we're still on course requirements if you're following along. So the final exam is in-class short answer exam, and that is during finals week. And for those, since we will be covering a lot this semester and reading 4 books, and more, what I do for these is I give you a list of questions. I give you 14 questions in advance. You can take them home for a week, study them. You could even write out responses if you want. And then when you come in to take the final, you're going to get a list of 7 of the 14 questions, and then you choose 6 of them to answer. So we'll go over this again, in the weeks leading up to the final, but you'll get the questions before, and then excellent answers will really draw upon the ethnographies we've read, the lectures that I've given, the discussions that we've had, films, and really compiling all of this to make a nice synthesis of an answer that draws on examples that we've learned. Okay, the field research project. I'm not going to go over this in the video because I want to kind of keep this condensed to the syllabus and giving you a course introduction, but you will, under the week 1 of D2L, see the field research project handout. Another part of your homework this week is for everybody to read through that, come with questions, and I'm going to give an explanation of that next week in class. So this, as you can see on the grading rubric, is 30% of your grade. And this is an independent project that you will be doing throughout the semester. And it will involve you choosing a social group in and around Bozeman. The social group, I mean, for example, could be gym goers, or, we don't have a lacrosse team, I don't think, but let's say the basketball team. Or the social group can be the Chinese language club, or, it even could be, though this might be harder, your group of friends. So you're going to pick a social group, and then as you'll see on the field research project handout, you're going to pose a question. So maybe you're going to look at rituals or rites of passage, or what delineates the social group from other groups. And you're going to write an anthropological paper on this. And so again, we'll go over this more next week, but read through that handout this week so you get an idea of what's expected of you. And each of you will be collecting your own data using methods that we're going to learn about throughout the first 3 weeks to complete that project. And this project has a lot of different components, which you'll read about on the handout. So for example, you have to do an IRB, an ethics training online, and you have to turn in an outline. And so all of these things, if you add them all up together, in total, the research project is 30% of your grade. And so if you look at the outline and sort of flip to the end, this is all due Sunday night, April 29th. So it's the weekend before finals that final paper is due. And the paper itself is, relatively short. It's 6 to 8 pages long, but you will have to do a lot of data gathering for it. So it'll be a project that we're all working on all semester long. And to help you or at least to give you time to work on the project, as you'll see throughout the course outline, I have 3 what we call fieldwork days. And the first one is February 7th. It's a Wednesday. So on those days, we don't actually have class, but you'll be able to use that time to collect data or come talk to me about your projects and make sure that you're moving forward throughout the semester. Okay, so back to the syllabus. Your final grade will be a compilation of these things. So you'll have attendance and engaged participation, 20%. So I'll certainly take notes of who's in class all semester, who's participating, who's engaged, who's asking questions. The second 25% will be your discussion leader assignment that we just talked about, where you and a group of others will lead the discussion for that day. Then there will be the final exam, which will be during the final exam period, and the field research project, which you'll read the handout for this week and which we'll talk more about next Wednesday. So in total, there's your 100% right there. And what I like to tell all of my students is that I consider all of you at an A right now, 100% in the class. So you haven't started yet, so think of yourself, not that you have to earn the A, but think of it that you're already there, you're watching this video, you're looking at D2L, you're completing the assignments for the first week, and if you continue doing all of that for the 15 weeks, there is no reason that every one of you in class shouldn't have kept that A. Okay, so I want to go over this week since it's kind of a funny week. So again, I apologize that I'm not there and that we don't have class the first Wednesday and Friday. But this is essentially what we would be doing in class on Wednesday. So I want you to, you've watched this video. I want you to read verbatim the syllabus. And I also want you to spend some time with the field research project handout. The second thing I want you to do is under week 1 of D2L, you'll see the assignments for this week. So you have 2 chapters of reading to do, and those are they're scanned chapters and they're attached to week 1. And I've also uploaded some PowerPoint slides. I want you to read through those and pay attention to the notes that I've written in the notes section. I've really tried to, in colloquial terms, write out what I mean by those slides. And so my notes, the PowerPoint, and the 2 chapters will give you enough information to participate in our online discussion. So then if you go to the discussions tab in D2L, you'll see a prompt there, and I want everyone to participate in this conversation about the question that I have posed there. And I definitely will have internet in Nepal this week, so I will be checking in, and if you have any questions about the reading, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure that those discussions are going well. And then this week we already have a 3-day weekend, but next Wednesday we'll all meet again in class, and we will review everything that we've read, because you're reading a lot this week already. We will break up into groups for the discussion leader assignment, and we'll talk about kind of what cultural anthropology is, which will give us a great platform from which to dive into theory next Friday. Okay, so hopefully the syllabus makes sense. The way it's written here on the handout is also how it's written on D2L. So however you'd prefer, I would start reading the handout, and then from then on you can refer to the D2L syllabus. And again, I'm available on email and D2L message or email, and we'll respond to any questions you guys might have. And so just spend time this week reading the chapters, familiarizing yourself with the online module, and participating in the online discussion. And again, if you look at the syllabus, you'll notice that my office hours are Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 to 11 and from 2 to 3 p.m. And my office is on the second floor of Wilson Hall, where the anthropology department is. And the office is 2121. And I look forward to your questions. I'm excited to meet all of you. I wish you a wonderful first week. I will see you online for our first discussion, and I will see you in class next Wednesday. All right, take care.